Kids do not need a perfect parent. They don't need a perfect parent. What they need is a parent who's willing to understand them and what their needs are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Polaris Connection, connecting parents of autistic children with industry experts. Each week, we navigate the world of autism together, bringing you real conversations from specialists who truly get it. The journey is challenging, but you don't have to walk it alone, so settle in, get cozy, let's connect, and do some good. I am your host, Brad Broyles, and I'm here with my conflict ninja and sledgehammer buddy, Nathan Palmer.
Wow, conflict ninja and sledgehammer. I've never seen a ninja wield a sledgehammer, but I'd like to think that I could figure it out because that's just how I operate. Brad.
Now, so a conflict ninja is a white for a piece or whatnot, and then a sledgehammer is a red.
Yeah.
Okay? So I have no idea what this means. A red, white, blue personalities, and so you talk about it all the time. I'm always confused. So we went out and we got Dan Call over here from Utah to kind of help explain this. And Nathan, what is red, yellow, blue, green?
Yeah. Okay. So welcome to the wonderful world of color. And listen, on this podcast, we've talked a lot. I mean a lot about connections.
You talk a lot.
I follow your lead, Brad. And we talk about resources for autism. And one thing that's been a tenet, and I think it was Rachel Krupe that really coined this, and we've just hammered it ever since. There's my hammer.
Yeah, sledgehammer.
That all behavior is communication.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a tenet of ABA. And for those that are new to autism and ABA, it stands for Applied Behavior Analytics or Analysis, and it's the study of behavior and the asking why behind behavior. Well, a lot of that's driven for behaviors that we're either trying to mitigate or that we're trying to understand. And I'm not going to geek out a lot, but there's what we call functions of behavior. Like, why is a child doing this? There's generally 4. We kind of talk about 5, but in those, is their behavior a sensory-driven behavior? Like, did something in the sensory environment set them off? Is it an avoidance behavior? Is there something they don't like that they're trying to get away from? Is it an access behavior? There's something that I actually want, and I'm using behavior to get it. Is it autonomy? Am I just trying to get independence, right? Attention? Do I just want you to look at me? There's these questions we ask, and the reason that's important is because a child yelling might be yelling, one, because they're triggered because of the environment, or they might be yelling because they want your attention, or they might be yelling because they want to get something, or they might be yelling because they're trying to avoid something.
Yeah.
And if you only take it at the yelling, and I want you to stop yelling, you're almost going to do whatever it takes to get them to stop yelling. But if you don't go the next level of, but why are you yelling? We're not understanding and we're not being able to address the problem. That's good and great. It requires degrees and study and history. I mean, to be a proficient ABA provider, it takes a lot of work, and it's why we invest so heavily in that field. Yeah. Under that, right, when you go through all those behavior things that are prone to this neurodiverse world, you're still left with the fact that they're people. And all people are people, and there are any number of, I'll call them personality profiles out there that try to help us to understand people. Not that we're trying to classify people, right? Everybody's unique, just like anyone on the spectrum. We're all our own unique person, but within that framework, there are tools that help us understand each other and connect with each other. Color code is something that I came across early in my marriage that categorizes those styles by color, and it did it in a way that helped me in my personal relationship, it helped me with people, it helped me in my professional dynamic, it's helped me with my kids. Dan was a proficient trainer in the color code dynamic, and so I'm hoping today we bring a little bit of color to your lives and helping to explain not just how to understand behavior, but how to understand people and maybe even yourself.
Yes.
I think you need to keep your expectations low. We're in trouble.
Oh, come on. I just did that whole
bill. The whole thing. We rolled for you, Dan.
Oh, wow. Look at that tee up.
And all the way from Salt Lake City. Thank you so much for joining us here in the desert in our brand new studio, Dan. Thank you for being part of the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so it's fascinating. Life is about relationships, but color code is why we do what we do. And the problem is we don't know why we do what we do most times. If you think about the breakdown of relationships, the breakdown of family, communication, we don't know how to play, in the sandbox effectively well. And the problem is that we live in a world where we look at behaviors, but we don't look at the driving motive behind the why, right? The driving motive behind it. So the world would say to us that you are born perfect and the world breaks you, or you are born broken and the world fixes you. Where color code is different is if you ask any mother who's had multiple children, usually they'll say that in the womb there was a different energy, a different feeling, a different vibe. And the idea of motive is that you are born with an intact drive and motive from conception, and that you bring with that very distinct strengths, limitations, and innate needs that other behavioral based analysis they just don't approach.
So it's the idea you came as you were. We learned certain things, but you were who you are when you got here.
Yep. You have an intact personality. And that's the reason why when you have 4 kids, it's kind of, God's humor when you're one personality and you have the exact opposite child, right? You're a red, you're a driver, you want to move, you want to go accomplish. And you have a white child that you can't motivate to do, go take over the world, and it's frustrating.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
And I've got 4 boys, and they're all very close together, and they couldn't be further apart.
Yep.
But they get along, but they were all parented the same way. They were all in the same environment. They all went to the same schools. They all did the same activities, and they are so different. So yeah, you can't deny there is an element there that is just innately them.
Yep.
Right?
Well, and let's kind of back up. So, folks, if everybody's confused about color codes and personalities, I am right with you. I'm not into this as much as Dan and Nathan. So I'm like sitting in your shoes. So let's.
But then now hang on. Now, that means you come with the responsibility because you need to ask the question that everybody listening is going to ask. And our goal today is, Brad, you built this podcast and called it Connection because our goal is to connect, right? On not just connect people, but to connect on issues and to connect on multiple levels. And one thing that, as a parent of a kid on the spectrum, that's been so rewarding participating in this podcast is learning all the ways I can not just support my kid, but support myself. And we're hoping the dialogue today is just one more level to help you connect with your kids, to connect with your spouse, to connect with those around you, to understand them, to be curious about them, and maybe look at behavior through a new colorful lens.
Nice segue. So, folks, when we do podcasts, I usually have like a list of questions. I do my research and I have it all ready to go. This is the only one that really I'm like leaning on you guys because I don't know this stuff.
Right.
So I'm going to be asking from our listeners' point of view. So first thing, what the heck? Like it was color code.
Yep.
And why do we use red, yellow, and blue and green and purple? Are there different shades?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
Can you just, let's start at step 1.
Great. So Taylor Hartman created the color code back in the 80s. It's been around for quite a while.
I think now they call it the people code, but it's same premise.
Same premise, yeah. The book was modified a bit and updated and whatnot. So if you go on Amazon, you can go out and look for the book. And there's a test online. That's probably the most effective way to understand what driving motive that you are. So there's 4 motives: red, blue, white, yellow. Red is motivated by power.
Or control.
Or control. Yeah. And really what their desire is to achieve, to lead, and to accomplish.
So it's not bad that you want power,
no.
but you're driven by some type of leadership. Like it's a good leadership quality.
Yeah. And listen, I'm the red in the room, and so I'm still going to say it's more like control.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's dual faceted. It's either some reds can want control over others, or some reds can just want to not be controlled by others.
Right.
Okay,
So it's your own. It is. Yeah. And so there's with all these, there's multiple dimensions, and by no means are there only 4 types of people in the world, but they are dimensions that help you understand.
But they're just like starting points. So it's like, okay, I have this general. This is my starting point as a red, and then there's different layers to it. just like people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's not every red is exactly the same. There's different facets. You have different strengths. You have different limitations. So it's not a one size fits all. A lot of times people get really hung up on the fact of, well, I'm not all that red, right? I'm a different kind of a spectrum of red, using that word.
So when I tell you, Nathan, what to do, that's why you fight back so much. Is that right?
Or I find a way to do it the way that I want to. Yes, absolutely. And this is, listen, in like the PDA world, this is prevalent in the
There you go.
and it's not necessarily about defiance as much as it is allowing flexibility for them to choose the path that would be better for them. And if all you knew was somebody was a red versus a white, you'd have some deference and understanding. They're not fighting me. They're fighting for their own
autonomy. That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and see the control, that's an interesting conversation, is because red's controlled by logic. Blue's controlled usually by emotion or manipulation.
morality.
Okay. Well, let's keep. Yeah.
White,
Let's do a broad overview, and then we can do some dives, right?
The whites don't want to be controlled at all, so they will avoid in any aspect to be controlled. And yellows, they don't want you to take away their freedom. So there's an engagement of control and a lack of control in each of those different personalities.
And let's start at the 30,000 foot level, Dan. So the question that Color Code asks isn't what do you do? It's why are you doing it?
Yep.
And it does it through this lens of motive, right? Your core why. And that for me was why the Color Code stood out so much, because some of the other profiles seem to look at behavior. Oh, you're outgoing and therefore you are this type. Yeah. But what the Color Code aims to answer is all four of the colors might have the same behavior, but they're exhibiting it for four reasons. So the primary core motives, red is power, control. Right. So
the other way to say that would be moving from A to B, accomplishing.
Right. Like finishing a task is huge for me.
Yeah. Blue is intimacy. That does not mean sexual intimacy. Intimacy is connection, legitimate connection, and that morality aspect of things. White is peace, and this is where maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict in most cases. Yellow, they're motivated by fun. They want to experience joy and enjoy life. So each one of these, this is the driving motive behind each one of these. So going to kind of explaining the behavior. Every one of these people, every one of these different colors are going to exhibit a behavior. So the behavior of anger, right? A red, you are getting in between them accomplishing their A to B. I'm trying to get something done, and you're in the middle of it. I'm going to get angry. A blue, because it's all about relationships, it's all about legitimate connection. You just mess with my kid, I'm going to go mama bear on you and I'm going to destroy you. So anger because of the relationship, right? Whites, they don't want their peace taken away. And what's interesting with a white, they are the kindest people you'll ever meet, but they stuff and they stuff and they stuff. And they just put up with it. And then all of a sudden, one day, they hit their cap and they just lose it uncharacteristically. And again, anger, right? And then yellows, if you take away their freedom, their fun, they're going to get angry. They're going to get frustrated, and they're going to, again,
you take away my fun, I'm like, you're just dumb.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really is.
I love to look at it like going on a trip. And I like these examples because it helps to relate and kind of get you a bit of a connection. Like going on a trip, for me, a red, when you say A to B, I want to plan the trip, and I want to know how to get to where we are going. Mm-hmm. And I want the trip to be successful, however I view that, right? So that's me controlling the outcome of it and the aspects of it. The blue doesn't care about B, it's everything in between. There's so many opportunities for connection along the way, but that can interfere with the red getting there.
Well, and if your kids are getting backbiting at each other, and that tears down that whole vacation.
Yeah, the white might want to go. So the red's going because it's the thing to do. The blue because there's people and experiences. The white wants to go on a trip to maybe escape what's here. So we're just avoiding and getting away. The yellow just because it's fun. We don't care where we go. We're going somewhere that's fun. I mean, and they just find that. So those core motives are what's going to drive the colors and just set a framework for the dialogue we're about to have. And I know that's super high level, superficial, it sounds like, but the more we dive in, you're going to find some relational aspects that might describe some of the conflict or answer some questions about why it's hard to mesh with some people.
Well, and the thing that's difficult about this is that if we don't know ourselves and what drives us, and then we have kids that we don't know what drives them. And then we have the whole other framework of autism on top of that. That gets really muddy because it's a conflict of motives. You start fighting each other, and it's all this control piece, right? Because you want a different intention, but that's not what's, that's not what the kid wants. So, every one of these motives, they have strengths and limitations. We live in a world sometimes where we don't want to look at our limitations. Strength Finders is a great, test that they use where it's all about the strengths. We very rarely do we say, it was that strength that really caused that problem, right? This is never that scenario. So it's always a limitation. So it's always good to look at the whole framework of strengths and limitations. With Reds, they're confident, they're decisive, they're leadership, courageous, very goal-oriented, very problem solver. Nate, we've talked about that with your sledgehammer.
Right.
The sledgehammer is not what I use for solutions.
No.
But it's what AI said, I should say.
And listen, I'm not that aggressive of a red. My secondary would be a white, so I'm kind of a peaceful solutions red, but still driven by accomplishment.
But you can see there's a lot of red in kind of natural leaders, like CEOs, presidents, governors, people that like to be in the limelight. Which is interesting about Nathan is, yes, he likes to lead, and he's very goal driven working with you, but he doesn't like the attention. If you want to stress him out, just put him on a billboard and say, hey,
no, not my
here I am, right? But which is interesting. So you have similar strengths, but then you would also think that other Reds would want the attention.
But that's where that spectrum comes in, right? What's interesting, we haven't, until Trump, we didn't ever actually have a president that was not a blue or a red ever since Nixon. We have white personality and yellow personality since then. The scenarios with leadership and all those pieces, some leaders want the accolades. Mm-hmm. What's interesting, the quiet leaders don't. So there's a spectrum, even within the red. We automatically jump to this idea that all Reds are forceful. They got to get out there. They're all the leaders. They take over. We live in a world where most men are supposed to be red and most women are supposed to be blue. What happens when you have a yellow mother who can't keep her house clean, but she thinks this expectation, she's supposed to be the perfect mother, the homemaker, the cook, and all that stuff. And she puts this really uncharacteristic weight on themselves that's painful to try to be something that they're not naturally. It causes them a lot of conflict, and yet they're the fun mom.
Yeah.
Oh, they are the best fun mom.
They're the best soccer moms.
They're the best. They have so much fun. They bring so much light. They're having the dance party. The house is a mess, and that's fine. But the problem is we live in a world where I'm supposed to be one way, you're supposed to be another way, and when we're not, that's limiting. Mm-hmm. It causes conflict emotionally too, because you're trying to force this round peg, round. It's just painful for a person to not understand why they do what they do and be okay with it.
Yeah, and that comparison, it builds up anxiety, builds up more depression, and you're just like, hey, I'm just being what I am very comfortable, and I'm really good at it, and people enjoy what I'm really good at.
Yep.
Yeah. And because that driving motor for Red is, power control, there's a lot of accountability, right? So for a Red, being respected is on the same level as being loved.
I would say it's even more.
It very likely. In fact, it's interpreted as it. Disrespect is a sign of I don't love or appreciate. And going into that, failure is really hard because we take accountability for what we're involved in. So failure on some level is a personal failure, which is why Reds are so driven to fix and to make those decisive decisions. It's an accountability aspect. And that's why I do the nuance of it's almost more control versus power. It's we want to control what's happening because we, at the same time, are controlling ourselves. Mm-hmm. So we do that through our environment and our surroundings. So that's kind of an insight into a little bit of the Reds.
Well, and that's interesting, a church and state scenario, meaning when you have the Red who is all living in logic and you have a blue that's all living in emotion, you don't speak the same language. It's like French and Spanish.
So let's go there, because my wife
Right.
is blue. And
Yep.
so this is what drew me first and to begin with, is wanting to understand that dynamic better. Let's go into the blue profile.
So blue's intimacy, it's legitimate connection, it's relationships, it's meaningful life, it's all that purpose. Most compassionate, most loyal to a fault, right? Very trustworthy, deeply caring. But some of the limitations that come with it is that they can be oversensitive and perfectionistic and unrealistic expectations. And they put those expectations on themselves and others. And it can really be hard balancing out those expectations. But the compassion that they bring in, the loyalty, my gosh, what the heart. Walt Disney was a blue. Look at the creativity. Look at the attention to detail. Look at the experience that he wanted to create for families. Perfect example of a blue, right? And the amount of how much power and how much ability that blue personality has. But when you take those two opposing forces, logic as a red, and you take blue as emotion, it's sometimes hard to get on the same page because you're speaking completely different languages, right?
Yeah.
It is not it's not easy to always communicate that way.
Yeah. Well, and earlier you mentioned, like, hey, in our society, we want men to be red, women to be blue. But if you look at the strengths of blues, like, think about like loyalty. Like, most guys are very, very loyal. Like, you always think about, like, hey, you got to do this for the team, or hey, we're gonna, we got to defend the country, even though we might not agree with it, we'll still do it.
And therein comes the why. So it's not loyalty is not what makes it blue or red. It's the why are they loyal. So Dan, why would a red be loyal versus why a blue is loyal?
Because they're trying to accomplish something and create something. With the blue, great example is Abraham Lincoln. He knew at the beginning of the war he was going to die, no matter what the outcome was. But he was going to fight for what was morally right. So it's the cause or the people or the morality of what's right.
Interesting.
Right. So there
interesting.
A key, that's why the color code was so, I guess, engulfing when I was first exposed to it, because you're right. Any color can be loyal. It's the why and the core motive underlying it. They're loyal for different reasons. They act the way they do for a different reason. And so if we just did surface level behavior, it doesn't tell you enough to understand the person behind the behavior.
So if we look at that red-blue relationship, a red is looking how can I accomplish this? And the blue is looking at, how can I love and be loved? Think about when you have to do layoffs in a company. If you have a red CEO and a blue secretary, that is completely contrary. Or you have, different personalities where you have the HR director who is all about the relationships, and then you have the CEO that has to make the hard call because the business has to survive. You have very different motives, and that's going to be an absolute gateway to conflict, right? Now think about this with kids and in a home. If you have a power struggle between a parent-child, let's say that you're a blue parent and you have a red autistic child. This is quite the power struggle, because all you want as a husband or a father or a mother is to connect with this kid. You want to love on that kid, and you want them to feel that deep connection. He doesn't speak that, or she doesn't speak that language, right? They just don't communicate that way. So you have this logic and emotional battle, and then you throw the autism on top of that. It's even more complicated because that communication pathway is even more difficult, right? So again, with that power struggle, the red child just wants autonomy. They can't go out necessarily and be a leader, but want to be a leader. They don't want to be dictated to. Even in that aspect, they know better than you. I still remember in third grade, I had this good friend of mine, and he's like, I could teach us so much better than she could. It was, this cocky little kid. It's what innately was in him, and that's what his belief was. And honestly, he probably could have pulled it off. He probably could have done so.
Well, there's also some other colors too.
Yep.
So now we've kind of again, on a surface level, we understand the red, the blue.
Yeah.
Let's talk about white,
yellow. Yeah. Whites are the kindest people that you will ever meet. They're the most accepting and loving. These are people who want harmony. They want peace. They do not like conflict. When my mom and I used to have arguments, my dad would immediately slink away. And it's like, where'd Dad go? He didn't want any of that conflict. He didn't want to be across any kind of a bow. They are calm. They're not very expressive. A lot of times they have the same look on their face.
Stoic, right?
Very stoic. They are the best listeners because they'll literally just sit and listen. Okay. They are extremely flexible and they can make any situation be fine. I always love one of the stories that they talk about going to a hotel. The red, you get to a hotel, there's not the reservation is not there. The red is like, get me your manager. This is going to be fixed now. The blue is, oh, I should have checked for the 5th time. It was my fault. The white is, I'm going to go on the couch. I'm just going to take this. And if you get a room, that'd be great, but I'm just going to sleep here on the couch. I'm just going to keep that flexibility. Yellows, they don't get a room, but they get the date with the bellhop. It's just, they go have some fun that way. But whites are very, very flexible. The one thing about it, they avoid conflict. And they avoid it a lot, kind of like the plague. They can get very passive. If you hear a white clam up, you know that they are now not going to engage at all if they stop talking.
Defense mechanism, kind of like the turtle in the shell.
Yep.
I almost think of it as the conflict avoidance. It's the path of least resistance, right? So it's at a lot of the decisions, the framework, the choices are which way is the least pain-inducing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what's fun about it is they're also got this quirkiness to them. Einstein was a white. Brilliant mind, right? But he was quirky. There was just quirky aspects to it. Yoda, he's a white, right? Jimmy Carter, he's a white. Best diplomat, but it's because he could hear both sides. He could hear both sides of the conflict, and he could figure out how to make peace. And this is what they're all about. And some of the best CEOs I've ever interacted with are white personalities.
Interesting.
Our world, we're like, oh, they got to be red. Boom. This is the calm in the storm. And when the white talks, everybody listens because it's deeply insightful, but they're waiting for the dialogue to calm down to like, I'm going to hurry and throw this big hammer down. And they just have this beautiful, quiet dignity.
Well, about that, you kept saying this and I kept thinking about it, conflict. Mm-hmm. So whites avoid conflict. Is it the fact that they're just trying to understand the argument so much, or are they trying to, like you bring out Jimmy Carter, okay, a guy that he really did avoid a lot of conflict, but is he just trying to understand both sides, or is he, like if your dad, like, hey, he leaves, is it because he's not ready to engage it yet? Is it like, I'm just kind of curious on that. Like, what does that mean?
We should say it more proactively. Conflict avoidance sounds negative. Their driving motive is peace.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes you get peace through conflict. So you can have a more extroverted white that's proactive about having peace. But the drive either way is if there's conflict, if there's discord, their goal is, how do I not have that?
Yeah.
Predominantly, it tends to be avoidance, but sometimes it is resolution. So they make great mediators because they're not so much emotionally invested, they're very logically invested.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And the thing, like I said, my dad is a white, and he's the greatest human being that I have in my life, apart from my wife and my kids. And it's because he accepts me exactly how I come packaged. Doesn't matter what I do, bad or good. He's just very accepting and very, very kind that way. Just a very strong. I personally believe that whites are actually one of the strongest personalities of the color code because they will take you down with them. They'll just do it silently.
Well, and that's what I like about the color code. It's not like, okay, all CEOs are red, mm-hmm. all I don't know, whatever, secretaries are blue.
Yep.
It's not like that at all. It's like, hey, you are who you are, but you have these different motives of why you do what you do, and to understand that makes you a better person, especially working with other people too.
Right. Well, and see, different jobs do have predominant kind of colors. There's a lot of blue in education. So my developers, I run a development team, and my developers, a lot of them are white personalities. So I literally have to give them space to be able to like give an opinion, because sometimes they don't want to give it because they don't want to get hit. They know me. They have a good trust with me. I'm not going to smack them down at all. So they know that they can speak openly. But if they're in an environment where it gets hit, they're not going to say a word. They're going to keep their mouth shut. So yeah, the scenario is we live in a world where people have to be exactly the same. And that is a very debilitating and a very narrow mindset. Every leader, every president, male, female, all four colors. And that's really embracing who you are. So going to the yellows. Yellow is about fun. Every yellow defines fun differently. So there's not a one size fits all. They want joy. They just want to have whatever they call, fun. Optimistic. And so I'm going to use my wife. She is 97% yellow. She is a 97%. She is a Japanese bullet train at Christmas time at Disneyland. She is just fun. For many, many years in our church, in our congregation, she would try to prepare ahead of time and really get things because she thought that was the right way to do it. Crash and burn every time. Every time. She's a yellow. When she goes and wings it, home run. The kids have fun. They enjoy. I'm telling you, it's just these strengths that she just stopped fighting the process, trying to be something that she wasn't. Yeah. Creative, enthusiastic, very social. Butterflies. She will bounce from person to person all night long and just social, just feeds off of it. It's just so much fun for her, and she just gets engaged. Can be a little disorganized. We always joke that we're always, she's always 15 minutes late. I'm always 15 minutes early, so we're always 15 minutes late. So, and that's just Angie. It's just one of those pieces with that. There comes some disorganization there. But think about this in the family dynamic. You have a white parent and a yellow child. That dynamic just right there with the personalities is so different versus a blue and a white. That's a little bit more kind of a gentle kind of a connection there, because there's a kindness on one side and an acceptance, but there's also compassion on the other side. That's an easier one. But when you get into fireworks of like the blue and red when you're having a power struggle, that gets crazy. Mm-hmm. When you look at the dynamic of a red and a yellow, that's fireworks, because you have the leadership, but you also have the charismatic, the fun, the breaking up the intensity of things. Each one of these combinations changes the family dynamic. Nate, you have 4 boys. Yeah. They're all packaged differently. And the thing that's amazing about the family structure in particular, and parents and kids, is that when you have that family dynamics, you have to figure out how to play in the sandbox.
Yeah. And it's, as a dad, I can tell you, looking at motive, when you think in the terms of motivation, helps you to know how to engage kids at various levels. Like I've got one kid that is a yellow, right? And so if I can make the work fun, or I can do play-based work, he's all in. I have another that just doesn't like work. He avoids it like the plague. Anything that has to do with conflict. And so I have to make the experience as least conflicting as I can, and that draws them in. I have another that is very principle-based, like the blue. It's just the right thing to do. And so I have to teach him a little bit of flexibility, but so long as he knows this is what should happen, he does it. However, when the brothers don't engage the way he does, oh my goodness, there's conflict, because why don't they see this is the right way? And, my wife and I describe it as it's like looking at a house. I'm looking at one side, she's looking at the other. We can both be in the same room at the same time, part of the same conversation in the same environment, and come away with 2 completely different experiences as to what happened, what was said, what was meant. And initially that drove a lot of conflict, because it was a who's right and who's wrong dialogue. And the reality is neither one was right or wrong. She was talking to me about the back of the house that I couldn't even see. I was talking about the front that she couldn't see. And we finally have got to a point where I'm curious to find out what the back of the house looks like because my picture is incomplete without it, and it drives a different appreciation versus a conflicting perspective.
Well, and that's freeing, isn't it? To have it be okay with different perspective.
Yeah.
It's very freeing.
And we talked about this before about being self-discovery, right? Discover yourself, know who you are. And knowing who you are is also just as important as knowing what you're not.
Yeah.
So Nathan, you're a red, white.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You'll be a red, white. Dan,
Yellow, red.
You're a yellow.
I'm a happy fat guy until I'm angry.
Okay. Well, awesome. Me, I'm all the above. No, I don't know. I'm still trying to, I think I'm more of a yellow. And Nate, you think I'm a yellow.
I think you're yellow-blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
More yellow.
But
blue.
see, this is one thing about this is that your journey of trying to figure out who you are and getting connected with that, that's your own journey. When I took the test, I thought I was absolutely 100% red.
Mm-hmm.
That was so not true. But it's because I was what I was supposed to be. I was taught my entire life, my bachelor's, my master's, my whole life coming from a farm, we're supposed to be red. No, it's not me.
And to avoid a lot of that, if I remember, that part of the directions when you take the color code test are to answer these from your earliest memories of childhood.
Yep.
Right. So we're not masking it with what we've learned to be or how we've learned to behave later. We're looking at those core innate motives. And the truth is, when you connect with those, they're still there and they're still present. And it's a lot more fulfilling understanding your strengths and limitations than trying to pretend they are what they're not. And you know, I remember when I first read it, I was like, oh no, one of those things that tries to say there's only 4 groups of people in the world, you know, and they're trying to pigeonhole that you're limited, you're just this. And the truth is, it's the opposite. It's very freeing because it gives you an insight more into yourself, into other people, and it allows you the space to think that my way of thinking is not the only way. There actually isn't just a right answer to this situation. Mm-hmm. And there are more ways to experience the same thing. And that, listen, that by itself is a concept that if people just understood, you can experience something differently and it doesn't make it right or wrong. And my way is not the only way. It allows room for grace. It takes so much conflict off of the table and it instead replaces it with curiosity. Tell me about your experience. I want to understand more what you experienced and why. And it will oftentimes sound foreign. And that just highlights even more how different we are and why this curiosity, this attempt at understanding, whether it's colors or numbers, the aim is to help us to connect not just with ourselves, but with other people.
Well, and see the emotional quotient thing, if you go into studying emotional quotient, it's knowing yourself and regulating between others. It's very freeing to know that one of my limitations is disorganization. I know it and I can actually make fun of it now. It's just one of those things. I know that that's a part of me that is a struggle and I can approach it and try to solve it. But I don't put it into that personal level of things. It's now, okay, this is just how my brain works, right? If you look at autism, it's how the brain works. Mm-hmm. We're all on this different kind of self-discovery path. So let's just chat this really quick here. Yellow parent. They want their kid to have joy. They want them to have fun, right? They want creativity. They want playfulness. And the parent's going to, let's make this fun. You know, let's try something different. Let's do those kind of pieces. Well, here's the problem. Sometimes life cannot be all fun. It can't always be that way, right? So maybe the parent, instead of asking, how do I make this fun? It's like, how do I, especially for an autistic kid, is like, how do I make this predictable? How do I get these routines that this is actually a great gift? I'm not a routine person as yellow, but my autistic child needs a routine. They need that to hold on to, right? It's helpful. One of the things, you know, your kid hates bedtime. The yellow response is like, well, okay, let's play another game. It's like, no, bedtime's the same every night. We have to have some predictability. We need a little bit more structure. So it goes against your natural inclination as a yellow parent, right? A yellow kid wants to experience joy, whatever that joy is. Is it the video game, whatever they gravitate to, whatever that dopamine hit, whatever that fun thing, but they're imaginative. They want to be able to be playful. They love that fascination. They want movement. They want to make people laugh, all those aspects, right? They want that joy and that creativity. What they don't need is more rigid negativity. So if we're putting always a thumb on a yellow kid and always just forcing it, they're going to shut down, and they're going to have more outbursts, right? More struggles, because you're trying to control too much, right? So I think this is one of those things where understanding what you do, what your child is, and trying to figure out how to communicate together their needs and their wants based off of what versus what yours are and what you're going to try to force. It's a long road. Let's just say that it's a long path.
And folks, I know you're this is audio only. You're not seeing what we have here on the table. Dan, you put together these awesome notes, and maybe hopefully we can throw this up on our podcast to share with others. But you say something here with the yellow that I thought was interesting. It says that they teach, the biggest gift you can give a yellow is teach that routines are not the enemy. They create freedom for adventure.
Yes.
That's a good
in the framing of it.
In the framing of it, right? And you make it fun. You said that you make the routine fun. Fun can be found in many, many different ways. Now, it has to be a legitimate fun,
Of course.
But the routine, we crave as human beings. We do crave routine. Kids especially, they want a routine, even though they would never say that, right? It's very effective for them to know and have that predictability, right?
Well, and then here's another one, making, laughter, making laughter is a good medicine. Yeah. So that you can, we talked about that a few weeks ago with our last, PDA, how we bring humor into regulating, right? So that's
another way with that is a little distraction too, right? It's like, we're going to make light of this and it's going to diffuse the situation, right?
Yeah. And how we approach it, I'm one of the things that took a long time and was the source of a lot of conflict just in interpersonal relationships for me is, a blue at their core, because it's intimacy and connection, they want to be understood. Because if they feel someone understands you, then that connection is there. Reds don't necessarily want to be understood. Reds want you to understand.
Right.
So maybe I didn't quite explain myself. Let me try again and back it up with more. So there's a nuance there, but being understood versus wanting you to understand. Whites want to understand.
Yes.
So they're looking at processing. I want to take it all in. So they're sitting in the corner of the room looking and studying. I want to understand what's around. But that's not about connection or even control. That's just themselves. And then yellows, Dan, I have to ask, because I have such little yellow, and in terms of understanding, you're not looking to be understood. You don't want them to understand. You're not trying to understand. You just
be. I'm really serious. You just be.
Yeah, there's just no rhyme or reason. Yellows are almost the most free flowing. I
would almost look at it like, how can I make this more fun?
Yeah.
I'm getting bored. Like, you should jazz this up a little bit.
And in the red, I'm like, I don't understand. What are we doing now? What we just are. I'd say of all the colors, yellows are the most present.
Yeah.
Right.
They live in the moment.
Blues tend to live in the past,
especially if there's hurt.
Yep. Reds tend to look to the future. The whites are present through it all. Like they really are the analytics. They're the historians on the side making sense of the whole timeline.
Yep.
And then yellows are the best at being present to gift. And it's why I joke all the time, I surround myself with yellow personalities, because it's a piece I see missing within myself. And folks, as you're listening, again, the goal of this is not to pigeonhole. It's to show, and really just around this table, we've talked about how different even we are just sitting here. And if we didn't know that about each other, then I'd go about my workday expecting you guys to work like me and becoming resentful if maybe you didn't. And Brad, you might be expecting a certain level of just moral compass buy-in and camaraderie and loyalty. And if it wasn't there, you might build resentment. And Dan, you'd be going, this is so serious. Where's the fun involved? And if it's not there, I'm not fulfilled and I'm going to look for something else. Right. And the undertone of not knowing that, the capital, the human cost is we're not filling each other's cups. We're not being there in a way that matters for them. So the goal of all of it's just understanding. It's connecting.
Well, and what's interesting is I've built so many teams over the years. My best teams are having a red, blue, white, and yellow, because all four bring different perspectives and they are all valid. And I'm telling you, some of the battles you have, because There, you have 4 distinct, different personalities. But in the end, if we align and if we're all on the same page, it's magic. It is golden because you bring all that strength and all that perspective together. It's really powerful.
Well, it also seems like it works for whatever you're trying to produce in any kind of business. If you get all 4 different perspectives, then your consumer most likely has those type of perspectives too.
Well, and in that same light, when you're looking at consumers, I've built products all my entire career. I know who my audience is, and now I know what their strengths, limitations, and what their needs and wants are. That's huge, because if I can fill a need or fill a want, we're in. That makes sense. If you have a product that hits all 4 personalities, you have gold, because you're meeting the needs or a want of a much larger, audience.
Well, it just sounds like, in a way you're kind of hacking into that emotional mindset and able to connect with like your children or your coworkers in a way that, you never have been before. So that's quite interesting.
Well, and with red personalities, I'm going to throw Nate on the bus here. He has to be careful that he doesn't use it to puppet mastery. There's a lot of blues that a lot of reds that masquerade as a blue to get their way from A to B.
Oh, so
you can mask different ways, right?
So I have to watch out now. No.
Well, and that goes into, there's the healthy side of the color, the unhealthy, but again, and that's hard, right? It's hard to read and go, this is the tendency, and I could see how that would be an easy pathway to use. So they're tools that help to make us the best version of ourselves. They're tools to help us to be more accepting of the best version of somebody else, even when it doesn't look like ourselves. And I think the reason I was excited to at least bring this topic was that as parents, what we want them to be successful. Okay. We want to drive meaningful connections with kids. We want them to be able to show up in a way that's wholehearted, that's understanding. And this is just another dynamic. It's a way to go at a theme, Brad, that we've had, it seems like the last couple episodes in our podcast. It's just another way to be curious, right? They're just perspectives to get us to ask, who are you? Who am I? How do we fit? And how can we be more synergistic? How can we build a more meaningful and purpose-driven relationship?
Well, and can I say to the parents, kids do not need a perfect parent. They don't need a perfect parent. What they need is a parent who's willing to understand them and what their needs are. And, this is beyond behavior. This is beyond all those pieces. It's a scenario that when you understand why you do what you do, and you understand what drives your kids and why they do what they do, there's such a benefit of communication improves. You see the motives. You see kids' manipulation too. You see through the facade, right? Of like, okay, they're trying to get to the why. Why are they doing this here? What's the why behind it? Not the behavior, because behavior is going to be, ebbs and flows. It's the why. And if you can address the why, you diffuse almost every situation. It's very empowering. But again, parents don't need to be perfect. They just need understanding of themselves and that drive, that motive.
Wow. So then what do we do from here? So is there any purples? I mean, is there any multicolored?
I guess
you kind of, you said 97%, whatever, it's not a true 50-50.
No. So if you're above 65% of one color, they call you a purist. And if you're like 35 and 35 too, that's where you have 2 more kind of driving cores. Like I'm 40% yellow and like 30% red. Okay. So that's how that breaks down for me. You're going to take the test and it's going to give you a kind of a breakdown. Mm-hmm. It's going to give you your percentages, but really what you're going to want to look at is your strengths and your limitations. And you're going to want to start embracing the limitations that are causing you to have issues. As soon as you see that, you're like, oh, that's why me and my husband or me and my child are having conflict, because this is their limitation and this is my limitation. It's just emotional quotient and understanding why you do what you do. So that's the next step, is just start discovering who you are and why you do what you do.
No, it's neat. And the test that you're talking about, I assume it's online.
Colorcode.com.
Colorcode.com. I don't know if there's a cost to it.
Yeah, so you can take the test for free, or you can actually upgrade. You can upgrade the test. It's usually, I think, $50 for the test itself.
And just so everybody knows, we don't make any money on it.
No.
This is all we're just understanding ourselves.
This is not
In
a
fact,
pitch.
our marketing director just did the test while we were doing this, and it looks like she is a blue. So, Dallin, congratulations. You are now a blue.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, we'll dive into that later.
That's a true blue response. No.
There you go.
And the goal is less about categorization. The goal is about curiosity.
Yeah.
And if all we did was inspire a reason to be introspective, to ask questions about yourself, to learn more about your kids and your dynamic, then we've done our job, because it's when we stop asking questions, it's when we stop wondering, that we become isolated. We're an island in ourselves. There is only our way, and that's where conflict thrives. Mm-hmm. If we're always asking why, if we're always curious about what's happening with the other person, you'll find that most resentment goes away. Because if you see something that's off, or they're behaving in a way that you think could be wrong, if you're first curious, you might find that the reason is not something you expected. It might be completely logical from their point of view. And when we have curiosity satisfied first, there's actually very little room for conflict after.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, that's awesome. This is. So, Dan, how would you like to wrap it up? I mean, what would be kind of the last thoughts to our parents who are like, okay, this is interesting, I might look more into it. What do you have for our audience?
I think that one of the biggest mistakes that as parents, is assuming that because your kids have autism that they need the same thing. They don't. They two kids may have the exact same diagnosis, but the scenario is they might have a different driving motive. And the conflicts that you're having, the difficulties, the outbursts, other things that way, the struggles that they might be having, it might be at a core of that driving motive. So what I would invite you to do is to discover yourself, take the test, try to figure out, what your child is. If they can take the test, that's fine. But you're going to discover and learn how to diffuse the situations moving forward. So I would just go on that journey of self-discovery. It has changed my life. It has changed my marriage. It's changed how I interact with my kids. It's been life-changing for me, and it's been one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had of teaching, but also very freeing to be able to accept me for who I am. And it's powerful. So just go seek discovery.
Well, we accept of who you are, Dan.
Oh,
thanks. Nathan makes fun of it sometimes. That's a very red.
Even though apparently I'm a sledgehammer.
Do we have a sledgehammer like sound effect?
We need to.
What's that sledgehammer song? The outro? Are we going to have?
We don't have the budget for that.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, well, thank you, Dan, for being here. I'd love to have you back again. Nathan, Thank you so much. And if you love this show, please hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a wonderful, inspirational conversations just like this. A huge shout out to our amazing team, our wonderful producer, Jesse Palmer, and our marketing director, Dallin Davis, for making this happen. Until next time, let's do some good.